Alrighty. How you doing, folks? Ron Raymond here from the Raymond Report, along with Ross Benjamin from rbwins.com for Wednesday. I was going to say Thursday. I was getting ahead of myself there, but September 9th, Hump Day. Hope you guys are having yourself a good start to your Hump Day. And today we're joined with our co-host, as always, Mr. Ross Benjamin from rbwins.com. How you doing, Ross?
Hey, Ron, maybe you thought it was Thursday and hoped it was Thursday because the NFL season gets underway tomorrow. Boy, oh boy, we've been keeping our fingers crossed, hoping all this COVID-19 thing keeps in check, and it has. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm pretty encouraged we're going to get through this year with no issues. You know, I think the NFL has done a great job without the bubble. And I like the fact that they expanded the practice squads to 17 players. So they can keep 70 people on the roster right now when you include the practice squad. And they only could dress 46. So in case you get some kind of outbreak, you know, the games must go on and will go on kind of thing, you know, barring something disastrous.
Yeah, and when you look at real life situations and people trying to get on with their lives as normal as possible, they have the money to put in the protocols to make sure that things, and players have incentive, you know, they're getting big bucks.
Yeah.
You know, like, be good. That's all. Like, just follow the rules.
You're dealing with mature adults, not 18 to 22-year-old kids like you do in college football. So they're accountable to each other. You know what I mean, Ron?
Absolutely.
And they're going to be getting tested every day, including the day of the game. So, you know, I like what the NFL is doing. They're doing as best as they can. And like you said, Ron, as pros, they're going to be more cognizant of their surroundings, right? So they're not getting any dorm parties or have the mentality of a young kid that's not as mature. You know, they're professionals. Yeah. And you would hope that goes a long way in making sure this season goes along as planned.
Yeah, hopefully Frank the Tank is retired, right? You know, from old school.
You know, I got to say this. Here's my rant of the day. Okay, other than what I ranted to you off air. But
it's crusty Wednesday. It's crusty Wednesday.
Exactly. I lost yesterday. Things haven't been going good of late with my pay selection, so I'm a little bit amped up today. You know, we talk about this Black Lives Matter thing, and you know, and people in the COVID-19 thing, and you're blending it all together. Okay. People I've heard numerous people cut down sports and say, who cares if sports plays? There's more important things, and screw these athletes that are protesting. They're making millions of dollars. Well, you know, here's the thing. If you look at sports, in particular the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, you have players of all colors working together. Okay? They're working together. If the whole world, the United States in general, would have that same approach mentality, even Canada, okay? Just think how much better the world would be. So before you start cutting down sports and telling me who cares, well, you should take a look at sports and see how in sports where African Americans far outweigh Caucasians in terms of baseball and football, and even in baseball, you're getting all nationalities, black, white, Hispanic, Cuban, whatever have you. They're working together as a team. They're uniting, you know, and if the rest of the world would follow that lead instead of cutting down sports, we'd be a hell of a lot better place to live in right now, Ron. So I got to get that off my chest.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I was part of the biggest team, and that was the Army. And you know what? We used to have a saying, like, one man, one kit, one unit, and and we're all teammates, right? Like, and my thing I say is, people, just don't judge. If you just stop judging and play with the tools and the toys in your sandbox and carry on, and just realize that, you know, we're all on this earth for a short visit. And just enjoy your time with your loved ones and families, and just you know, stop judging as much. I think we'll be a better place everybody gets along. And hey, we just that's how I feel about it. It's just, I think that
Yeah, I
people,
mean, we could. Yeah, it's an even better example, Ron, because if you could fight a damn war together with every nationality, every race, every color, and every ethnicity, then why can't we get along in the damn world? You know, it's. I know that I'm asking a lot, and it's not that simple. And I certainly never ever would tell a person, an African American individual, I know what you mean, because I don't. That's an absolute lie. You don't know what they mean. Okay, maybe we need to listen more. Okay, now the other side of the coin is the ones who ruin it for everybody, the cause in the rioting and looting. Okay, it's a small percentage of people that racist people that are white tend to criticize and put everybody in that same group. It's not. It just pisses me off, Ron. It doesn't have to be this hard.
well, education plays a huge role in everything in life, and people need to educate themselves and realize that, it's 2020, and that
Yeah.
it's not 1918, and and that's yeah, it's a heavy dose there for a Wednesday, Ross.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the games, buddy.
All right, so let's go to the SBI here. Yeah, that's but it's serious.
Hey,
It's
you know what? And we're both 100% serious when we address this issue.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one thing we have here at the ATSstats.com is the SBI, the Sports Betting Index. And Ross, we've been talking about this since the beginning, how the favorites, again, how they've been doing. But they cooled off yesterday with 18 games. And Ross, I went 2-1 with my selections yesterday. And normally when I see a day of favorites, like we did yesterday, I tend to play
Look
more.
at that.
I tend to play more totals the next day. And that's why I only had one side selection yesterday, which was a favorite. It was lost with the White Sox. But I had the under in Atlanta and the over in Milwaukee Detroit game. And that's why anytime I see the favorites come off a big run like this, I'll tend to go more towards the totals the next couple of days. And sure enough, yesterday was a good time to get off those favorites because, as you can see, only 33% of the favorites came in.
Yeah, the sports books had to be happy yesterday, huh, Ron? I mean, they got a little bit of a reprieve after the chalks have been cashing in at such a high rate. So, yeah, that's incredible. 12-6 of the underdogs. If you were a favorite better yesterday, you took a bath, and I don't know why you would be an underdog better yesterday because, again, if you were, congratulations. You picked your spot very well.
No, and also looking at the NBA yesterday, you've been saying it all. Started looking at the unders, and sure enough, the last 7 days in the NBA. Check this out. Actually, the last since August 29th. Look at all the unders here in green. The unders are having a field day. But we talked about this at the beginning that at the run the overs had in the bubble and the restart, that eventually what goes up must come down. And sure enough, 78.6% of the unders have come under in the last 7 days. So you've been talking about this. Start playing the unders, and sure enough, it has come in.
Yeah, I wish I'd listened to myself. Again, it's the law of averages. I mean, look at yesterday, Houston and the Lakers, 64-61 at the half, and the game ended up going under. Houston scores 38 points in the second half. I think they scored 89 total points in the second half. And then, here's the thing I'm looking at too right now, and I would recommend and advise looking at going forward. The teams playing the best defense right now, those are the ones you want to start siding with. I mean, right now, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers, these are teams that are playing stifling defense right now. And you saw it with the Lakers yesterday. They're a good defensive team, and they were embarrassed in the first half, giving up 64 points. And they just clamped down on defense yesterday against a pretty good offensive team in Houston, Ron.
Yeah, no, and one thing I'm noticing is at halftime, which team are making the best adjustments at halftime. Oklahoma City was a good team for that, to make good adjustments at halftime. The Lakers yesterday made some good adjustments. So teams that are able to adjust at halftime, and I use my football experience to, like, when we're behind in the first half, we meet up with coach and say, okay, let's change our strategy here. And, sometimes you don't have a day to change your strategy. You got 10, 15 minutes in the locker room and you're on the whiteboard or the blackboard and you're going through everything and you're saying, okay, how do we fix this here? How do we stop the bleeding, right? And that's what I think you're seeing in a lot of the NBA and MLB. All right, let's go to the
MLB. That's what I was saying about, if I could just end with this. That's what I was bringing up, the example of Eric Spoelstra, the head coach in Miami, how I notice every time he comes out of a timeout and Miami has possession of the ball, they seem to always run a play with a high degree of efficiency and either get a good look or a basket out of it. That's in a small sample size. So it goes hand in hand to what you're saying, Ron. You look at what the other team's doing. Okay, you digest it and it's good coaching. And that's a great point. It's, especially at playoff time, Ron.
And sometimes we forget, and listening to Nick Nurse's press conference right now, I don't like his body language. I don't like the message he's sending, and he's expressing doubt. And when I see a coach express doubt and not have that energy that he normally has at press conference, or he's behind 3-2 in a series.
It's like he's defeated.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't give me confidence putting money behind him, right? And that's where I think that people should pay attention more to head coach's press conference to see what their mindset's at, and be a good read between the lines. No pun intended there, but read between the lines, right? To see what the message that the coach is trying to really say, because in those press conferences you can get an indication of the environment and the culture of the temperature in that room, and that translate into the on the court or the playing surface.
100% agreed, Ron.
Milwaukee Brewers taking on Detroit Tigers. Now, Milwaukee, a 155 favorite. The over-under set at 7.5. And I don't know if that's right or not, but I'll have to double check that. That seems like a very.
I had 8. It might have went down to 7.5.
Okay, I'm just wondering if it's a double header here. Okay. Yeah, we got some good
single game.
Yeah, but this is what I was saying the other day. Remember when you see like a 7.5, you think of like stud pitchers like Kershaw, Scherzer, and Corbin Burns and Matthew Boyd doesn't really yell 7.5 to me right now. But hey, it is what it is.
Corbin Burns, 5 starts this year, a 1.75 ERA. And then Matthew Boyd, who had a terrible start to the year, Ron, in his last 3, a 0.85 ERA in his last 3. So, excuse me, I'm sorry, I got the wrong stat there. A 2.60 ERA in his last 3, a 0.81 WHIP. So 2 pitchers that are pitching very well at the current moment.
Yeah, and looking at the forecast here, we got 4.99, 4.59, the over-under at 9.58, 78% chance of winning for the Brewers, 43 for the Tigers, and Milwaukee now on a 3-game losing streak, the Kogo at 49%. But, sending Corbin Burns here might stop the bleeding here today.
Yeah, Corbin Burns also. No home runs allowed this year in 25 1/3 innings pitched.
Wow. Milwaukee on the year, looking at their record, 18-22, 8-10 on the year, 10-12. So obviously not having a great season. But Detroit, we talk about it. They're in there. They're in the hunt for that 8th and final playoff spot. So they can't afford. They got to keep winning, keep their winning ways. Kansas City.
How about this, Ron? Milwaukee 9-1 under the total on the road this year, when the total is between 7 and 8.5.
Okay. Kansas City taking on the Cleveland Indians. Now the Tribe, a 190 favorite. The over-under set at 7.5. ATS forecast, computer pick, going to lean with Kansas City in a really tight one here. 4.74, 4.73, over-under 9.47. So it does like this total to go over the total. Another 7.5 here. Danny Duffy against Carlos Carrasco. Now Carrasco, I remember watching his last game. Solid pitcher. He does give you innings. Looking at his last start, I'm just going to check, see the innings. He went 6 innings in his last 2 starts. And the one against Detroit on August 23rd, he only went 3 and 1/3, but impressive last couple of starts here for Carrasco. And again, we got them, but a tight one here today with the Kansas City Royals. An 8-6 loss yesterday to the Royals. they can't be given. The good news is, I think you're looking at the Chicago White Sox. I don't know if Minnesota, what they did last night. So if Minnesota lost, or I can't remember if they played or not.
Yeah, Minnesota split a doubleheader.
Okay, so the good news is that they, the White Sox lost, so they didn't lose much ground in the division.
Yes, and here's a good thing to look at here. Daniel Duffy, 0-7 at Cleveland since 2015 with a 9.95 ERA. Carlos Carrasco, 4-0 home versus Kansas City since 2017 with a 2.80 ERA. So right there alone, you would think that Cleveland matches up very well in their home ballpark against the lefty Duffy. And Kansas City, you know what, Ron, they scored 8 runs yesterday, but they had been struggling offensively going into that. I can't see them having back-to-back good offensive games against this Cleveland pitching staff.
Yeah, no, and looking at Kansas City this season on the road, I'm just going to bring up their record right here. They're 8-15, and looking at their last 10, 2-8. So yeah, no, they're not a team that you probably as a road underdog. 6-15 as a road dog, only averaging 3.52 runs per game.
0-8 after 0-8 in their last 8 following a win, also, Ron.
Wow. New York Yankees taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now the Blue Jays, rare road underdog, home underdog here. 135 is the price, and Blue Jays really hot team right now. 24-18 on the season on a 3-game win streak. They're sending Tanner Roark to the mound, but you know what? Be careful here, because looking at Tanner Roark this morning and his last few starts,
terrible.
He's been fortunate that he has a team that's hitting behind him, because he allowed 7 hits against Boston, 8 hits against Baltimore, 6 against Tampa Bay, 9 against Baltimore. So he's just barely surviving these games, and he's lucking out with some great hitting on a hot Toronto Blue Jays team right now, who are won 3 in a row. And we got the forecast giving them another win here today at 5.67, 4.84, the over-under at 10.51.
Well, if he can get well, he'll get well today, because the Yankees right now, without Judge and without Stanton in the lineup, can't hit their way out of a paper bag right now. They put up 7 the other day, but they gave up 12. When they get a good pitching performance like they got from J.A. Happ yesterday, they can't hit. So that's the way things go when a team is on a bad run like the Yankees are. They've lost 5 in a row, 15 of their last 20. Blue Jays 3-game win streak, 17-7 in their last 24. And as Ron alluded to, Tanner Roark's the only detriment here to looking at Toronto and seeing some value on the home underdog. His last 3 starts, a 6.91 ERA and a 1.88 WHIP. All 3 of those games went over the total, Ron.
Yeah. Chicago White Sox taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, this was my only loss yesterday. They, like you said off air, they had a good 4-2 lead going in the 8th inning, and then the wheels fell off. And not a good sign when bases are loaded, no outs, and then it's a hard thing to do to secure the win. But they had that game, and those are the type of games going down the stretch that Chicago, in the playoffs, if they do make the playoffs, those are the type of games that that regular season is going to really tell you what kind of team you're going to have for the playoffs. If you can't win, especially against the Pittsburgh Pirate team, who's one of the worst teams in the league at 14-26, not a good sign for the White Sox right now. A 170 favorite today. The over-under set at 9. ATS forecast going back to the Sox here. 5.57, 4.35. The over-under at 9.92. Dane Dunning up against JT Brubaker. You know what? 170. That's a pretty heavy price tag for the White Sox.
Did you watch that game yesterday, Ron?
Yes, I did.
Right. That second baseman, I wanted to crucify him. He got thrown out on the bases twice. He cost us a run because one time he gets thrown out. He runs through a stop sign at third, gets thrown out at home, and the next guy gets on, and following that, the guy hits a home run. So he cost us a run there. And then with less than 2 outs, he's at second base, and he gets thrown out at third on an infield ground ball to the shortstop. So, I mean, those are, again, we're talking about base running like we got burned with St. Louis. You can't. That's not championship baseball. And like you said, Ron, we mentioned yesterday that Chicago had been so good against C-type teams this year, B and C-type teams. And their strength of schedule leaves a lot to be desired, but they were winning those games. And yesterday it caught up with them a little bit. That was one they let get away, and one they might regret at season's end when it comes down to the final standings.
Yeah, so in the rain report, we track all the A, B, and C-type teams, and that was their first loss of the season, 8-1 now against C-type teams on the road. But again, that's a game they should have had.
And the price
Miami
was reasonable too,
Yeah.
Ron. It was -126, -130. Anyway,
Yeah, no,
sorry to
the
interrupt.
price was right. The price was right. Miami taking on the Atlanta Braves now. Sixto Sanchez looked brilliant yesterday in his. I had the under in that game. I went back to my guy here, Sixto, and sure enough, he went up against Kyle Wright for the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves just couldn't hit yesterday. 8-0. That's not, don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that. But looking at today, you got Pablo Lopez going up against Tommy Malone of the Atlanta Braves. Now, we do have the Marlins taking this one again. They're on a 2-game win streak, 4.78, 4.54, the over-under at 9.32. These Miami Marlins, Ross, they're not going away anywhere.
Hey, what's the over? The total on this game, I believe it's 9. Is that correct?
9. Yeah, I see 9.
Yeah. Miami now 7-1 on the road this season when there's a total of 9 or 9.5, which means they're not facing, when they don't face an ace or a quality starting pitcher on the road, they've done extremely well this year. Tommy Malone definitely doesn't fall under that category. His last 3 starts, a 7.72 ERA and a 1.63 whip. And Pablo Lopez, dating back to last year, his last 3 starts against the Atlanta Braves, a 1.50 ERA and a 0.89 whip. So, again, might want to take a look at the Marlins as a dog again. The only thing that bothers me, Ron, is now you're looking at winning 3 in a row against the first-place team. You would think if Atlanta's going to wake up, it's going to be today. So it'd be interesting to see what transpires here.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm thinking too. And looking at Atlanta on the season, coming off a loss at home, 7-2 in their next game, and if that loss was an under, 6-0. So, they have the players to wake up here, and like looking at their division here in the standings, they're only a game and a half over the Phillies, so they don't have the luxury like some of these other teams to like the Dodgers.
Yeah, you would think, I don't know about you, Ron, but you look at Atlanta's record and say they got to be better than that, but they struggle on the road. And they've struggled in the role of an underdog this year. So, in the last 2 days, they were sizable favorite. Well, they weren't a sizable favorite yesterday, but the last 2 days they were a favorite, and they've been excelling in that role this year. And of late, that's not been the case.
No, it hasn't. Baltimore taking on the New York Mets. Now, had a nice little system on the Orioles yesterday. 11-2 win against the New York Mets. I sound like a broken record, but Baltimore, Detroit, and Miami seems to be teams that we they just, all they do is just keep plugging away. Baltimore now on a 4-game win streak, and you know what? You got to be impressed. 3 wins against the Yankees. Now a win against the other New York team, the Mets. Jose Lopez going up against Rick Porcello today. I thought this price was a bit overvalued here on Porcello, -179 against a Baltimore team that's really 1 game below 500. They're getting no respect here.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ron. I mean, Porcello this year, 0-4 at Citi Field with a 7.41 ERA. So it's not like he's pitched well at home. And then also, what might be hidden in this whole agenda when looking at this game is Baltimore is a respectable 10-8 on the road this year, Ron. And while the Mets are 10-13 at home. So I agree with your assessment in that regard.
Yeah, Baltimore against C-type teams on the road this year, they're doing the job, 7-0 straight up. So they're beating the team they should be beating. And this is why I keep talking about them, because all they do, I don't talk about losing teams. I talk about teams that make you money. And right now, Baltimore is making some people some money.
And most times than not, they're an underdog in it. They've been a terrific big underdog this year. I think if you look at the record of as an underdog of plus 150 or greater this year, they've been terrific in that role. So they definitely been a moneymaker, Ron.
Yeah, as a
And you're right. Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand with you saying that they've been undervalued a lot.
Yeah, 9-7 as a road dog this season. So that's very good for a team like Baltimore, who's in a tough division. Let's be honest. The American League
And not
East
only,
is
I mean, 9-7 as a road dog, I would say that the average money line price in those games are over plus 150. So that's again, that's a heck of a rate of return on Baltimore in that role.
LA Angels taking on the Texas Rangers, and looking at yesterday's game, Lance Lynn finally got a win for the Texas Rangers. Now you got Julio Teheran going up against Kyle Cody today of the Rangers. Angels a 128 favorite, over under at 8. Forecast going to lead with the Rangers here, 6.25, 3.75. The over under at 10. And looking at the numbers here, I had underdog value on both these teams: 171 for Texas, 160 for the Halos. So the one thing that you can't overlook is Teheran. He's not that good of a pitcher. 5-0-1 last 6 to the over when he goes for the Halos.
Yeah, been terrible. 8.15 ERA over that time as well, Ron, and allowing 6 home runs and 17 2/3 innings pitched. Cody will be making his second Major League Baseball start ever. His first start was only 3 innings. He pitched real well. I think this is a type of situation where they're going to expect 3 or 4 innings out of Cody, and then they're going to try to patch it together with their bullpen. Texas, a terrible 4-17 on the road this year, Ron, but not respectable, but at least competitive at home at 10-10. While the LA Angels have struggled on the road all year long, 6-14 to be exact. And also the LA Angels this year, Ron, when they fall in the betting parameter of the money line of -100 to -150, which they are today, they've gone 0-7 in that situation this year. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, not a good spot for them. Colorado taking on the San Diego Padres. So big price tag here on Zach Davies, -230 up against Antonio Sensatella for the Colorado Rockies, who are coming off a shellacking yesterday. 19 runs scored in that game, 14-5 favoring Clevenger and the San Diego Padres. Now looking at today's matchup, Davies 6-2 for the Padres when he goes this year. Sensatella, which are 20-22, the Rockies are when he goes, they're 4-4, but 6-2 to the over. And one thing I like to do when I'm looking at games, and it's the law of average theory, right? People see 19 runs scored. It's like the Blue Jays the other day, right? And I knew yesterday, I've been riding that Blue Jay over for a while, and I knew yesterday after 15 runs the other night, I said, nope, not gonna go back to the well today. And I think
not
today,
gonna get suckered in. Yep.
Yeah, and I think today people are gonna probably think the over here, but be careful.
Yeah, Kyle Davies, his last 3 starts, an 0.87 ERA, Ron, pitched well all season long, as a matter of fact. In 8 starts this year, a 2.23 ERA, a 0.93 whip. And Antonio Sensatella has started twice against San Diego this year. Both came at Coors Field, Ron, and he pitched extremely well. 13 innings pitched, allowed just 1 earned run in those 2 starts against the Padres at hitter-friendly Coors Field. Now today it switches back to Petco Park. It goes hand in hand to what you were saying about perception, Ron. I think people will get caught up in seeing how many runs were scored yesterday. The history of the series right now this year, there's been quite a few high-scoring games, if I'm not mistaken. But if indeed that's not the case, I think this is a good game to look at the contrarian approach here when it comes to the total.
Yeah, the Kogo's at 50%, so the percentage play doesn't come into a factor here. And I'm just looking at some of the numbers. Colorado is a road underdog this season, 6-12 to the under. Road teams on that doesn't make sense. Coming off a night game, 4-10-1 to the under versus right-handed pitchers. 4-10-1 to the under this season for Colorado. And for the Padres, I'm just going to take a quick look here. Nothing really to write home about. But, I think the under is where you probably want to do some homework on. Cincinnati taking on the Chicago Cubs. Now we've got a 150 price tag on the Cubbies here, and the over-under at 7.5. Pretty good pitching matchup, to be honest. Yu Darvish up against Trevor Bauer. Darvish he's in that conversation with the Cy Young. We talked about this before. And now looking at the forecast, 5.5 for Cincinnati, 3.56 for the Cubs. The over-under at 9.06. And looking at the Reds here on a 2-game losing streak, the last 3 have gone under the total, where Chicago's on a 2-game win streak. Last 3 have gone under the total. My price today, Ross, on the Cubs was minus 142, so $8 overvalued. But you know what? You're getting Yu Darvish. That's not a bad little deal at 150.
Yesterday we looked at the 2 starting pitchers in this series at Wrigley Field and said, these are 2 guys that are struggling. And I made the point, winds were blowing in 20 to 25 miles an hour yesterday from left center, which will make a lot of starting pitchers look good. Not only is the wind blowing in terms of possible home runs, but you also got to remember, Rod, the wind's also at your back too. So the velocity of your fastball could go up a mile or 2 per hour as well, which means a lot. And you mentioned these 2 starting pitchers today. How about Yu Darvish? The last 7 starts this year, 7-0 with the 0.98 ERA. Terrific. And Trevor Bauer has come off a couple not so great outings, but still overall this year a 2.05 ERA and a 0.86 WHIP in 7 starts. And the Cubs 6-0-1 to the under in their last 7. Both bullpens have pitched well over the last week. So I might want to take a look at the under here. The only thing I would be leery of is if I'm looking at what I just said or listening to myself what I just said, a lot of those are obvious things, especially with the 2 starting pitchers we're having today. And anybody who's bet baseball in their life knows if you're going to tangle with a total at Wrigley, I didn't come out to this morning. Odds makers just don't give out a total at Wrigley Field too early because they want to see what the current or the most up-to-date wind conditions are there.
Yeah, and looking at Trevor Bauer starts this year, of his 7 starts, only 1 has been against a team with a winning record. So the schedule has favored him. He played Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Kansas City, Milwaukee, Detroit twice. So in the time he did face the Cubs, he went 5 1/3, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2.13 innings. So hey, maybe it's another game, and that's a good point with the wind coming in. It adds to your fastball. That's for sure. But you know what? And here's another thing. If you are considering the under today in this game, consider this. In the last 30 days, the under is 14-1 for the Reds on the road this season.
Wow.
Houston.
Wow.
It's money. That's money. Houston taking on the Oakland Athletics. The A is a 130 favorite. The over-under set at 9. ATS forecast, computer pick, going to go with a low-scoring game here. 2 to 1.5. The over-under at 3.5. Jesus Luzardo going up against Luis Garcia for the Houston Astros. I'll have to look up that. I don't remember seeing that name before. But hey, we're getting at that point of the year. Maybe he's a bullpen guy. I don't know. But taking a look at the numbers, you got Oakland now losing yesterday 5-4, and Luzardo in his last five starts, the under 4-1. So
I got Oakland minus 170. Ron, you want to maybe double check that because at minus 130, they'd be a great value at home with Luzardo.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's and this is again the feed. It's I just gotta say one word: COVID.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen. Computer errors happen. So, Luzardo 3-1 at home this year with a 2.49 ERA, so he's pitched very well at home. Oakland's bullpen has been lights out at home, and Houston has really struggled on the road. 3-12 in their last 15 on the road, despite yesterday's win.
LA Dodgers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now the Dodgers. Now I know they're that price looks about right. 230 for the. Actually, no, it's 270 now for the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw up against Taylor Clark. Bad beat for the Diamondbacks last night. I don't know. I know they were leading and then they lost 10-9. Arizona, when it rains, it pours. 4-game losing streak. They just can't catch a break right now. And, and they're not benefiting from playing in the right division, when you got the Dodgers, Padres, and now you're going up against Clayton Kershaw, probably a Hall of Famer. Doesn't get any better for Arizona.
No, it's like what I said about the Yankees when they're struggling. Arizona, look, they scored 3 runs or fewer in 8 of their 9 games going into last night. They finally get an offensive output. Ron scored 9 runs and they end up losing because they can't stop the other team from scoring. So
Yeah.
that's just atypical of a bad team going through a bad year. Kershaw lights out on the road this year, Ron. 4-0 on the road with a 0.70 ERA, averaging almost 6.5 innings pitched per start. Clark has pitched good at home for the Diamondbacks this year, but only 2 starts. He has a 2.00 ERA in those outings. Hey, Ron, here's a good one, buddy. I haven't had a Raymond tickler in a while. The home
Okay.
plate umpire today is slated to be Rob Drake. He's been behind the plate 9 times this year, Ron. And guess what? All 9 have gone under the total. And as a matter of fact, since 2018, he's called balls and strikes 55 times, 38, 15, and 2 to the under. So I thought you would enjoy that.
Yeah, no, that tells me he's got a plane to catch real quick after each game.
No, he's got a favorable. He's a pitcher-friendly umpire with a favorable strike zone.
Yeah, no
He
kidding.
doesn't squeeze pitchers. So
Yeah,
that's what
no,
I make of it anyway.
yeah, it's speaking of balls and strikes, looking at some of these games, it's okay. I know it's probably not an easy job sometimes, but sometimes the worst thing they did was give us that little box screen in the TV because we can look like geniuses from our lazy boy calling balls and strike, but no, you're right. Some
Yeah.
umpires do have a narrow strike zone, and some man. They use the batting box as a strike zone.
Yeah, I mean it hangs the umpires out to dry, makes them a hell of a lot more accountable. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Seattle taking on the San Francisco Giants. Now, Nick Markvicius going here today for the Mariners, taking on Tyler Anderson when he goes for the Giants. They're 2-5, but 5-2 to the over. Coming off a 6-5 win, they're on a 4-game win streak. And you know what? We talk about San Fran the last couple of podcasts. They're doing pretty well, and you can tell they're doing well because the price keeps going up on them.
Yeah.
161 today, over under at 9. Forecast going with San Fran 4.89, 4.41. The over under at 9.3. So it does like it to go a hair over the total here. And looking at today's pitching matchup, 1-3 for Markvicius, 2-5 for Anderson. So both teams really need some wins here, or pitching. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and they're minus 151 against a Seattle team that had been playing very well, and still, I mean, they lose yesterday 6-5, but the Mariners are like 11-4 in their last 15 games, and yesterday's win by San Francisco, I believe, ended a 6 or 7 game win streak for Seattle. So, yeah, your point is well taken, Ron. Interesting note here, Ron. The San Francisco Giants have faced American League teams, specifically the AL West, because of the scheduling this year, 14 times this year. 12-1-1 to the over in those 14 games against their AL West opponents this year. And the Seattle Mariners in night games this year, 19-8 over the total. You got 2 starting pitchers that haven't pitched bad at all. So some conflicting information there as it applies to the total.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because I'm looking here. San Fran 8-0-1 to the over against AL West division opponents. So great pickup there. That's a great stat to know. And looking at the strength of schedule for the Seattle Mariners against B-type teams, we don't talk a lot about B-type. It's either A or C. You don't see a lot of B, especially in the NBA. That's one thing I noticed with the Rain Report. If you go look at the standings of the NBA, you're either really good or really bad. There's no mediocre teams. It's really amazing. 3-0 to the over for the Mariners against B-type teams, and for San Fran at home against C-type teams, so teams below 500 in the standings. 9-2 straight up, 6-4-1 to the over. So
wow.
Some interesting numbers right there. All right, let's go look at the 80% Club. I know we had some stats yesterday, and I checked this morning. I know we have some stats here today. Actually, we still have one that looks a bit like yesterday, but sometimes it's a little bit slow. But come on, work with me here. There we go. All right. So looking at the Cleveland Indians again, 15-1 as a 200-220 home favorite after a division game the last 2 years. San Francisco Giant, we just talked about them. 14-1 as a 160-180 home favorite in the month of September the last 10 years. But keep in mind, this is a different year. And the over. Man, this doesn't look good for we just made a case on the under in that Rockies game. This the 80% club is just crushing us here. The over 12-1 for the Rockies as a 200-220 road underdog.
That doesn't apply because they're not a 200-220 road underdog.
Oh, it's not the
yeah, I mean, San Diego, I had minus 170.
So a little bit off right there. Yeah. All right, let me see if I can find another one here. The Mets 9-1 as a 160-180 home favorite, coming off a loss versus left-handed pitchers the last 7 years. So that does apply because the Mets are a 170 favorite today. All right. So you know what, Ross? Good show today. We not a lot of games. We got NFL coming. I know you got to play in college football coming up Thursday night. The Canes and UAB.
Yeah. I feel real strong about that game. Miami and UAB, 8 o'clock ESPN, or in Canada would be on TSN, maybe.
Yeah, TSN or the sports package there if you get it with Rogers. We do have a sports package, but they're going to be in a big fight for TV ratings with the start of the NFL with the Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing a NFL preview show on Friday. So if people are wondering when we're going to talk NFL football, we're going to schedule Football Fridays, and then we'll dabble into the college on Saturdays, right? Thursdays, right?
No, Thursday. Yep, Thursday. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, again, nobody's asking you got to watch the game. It's not, you flip back and forth if you want during commercials of the NFL game. At the end of the day, I'm out to make you money. Again, the NFL opens tomorrow. Ron, pretty good matchup, I guess. Kansas City and Houston, rematch of the AFC divisional round last year, in which Houston blew a big lead and Kansas City ended up prevailing 51-31. So we'll preview that game. I'm sure to have most likely going to have a play on that game as well. And you can get those by going to my website, rbwins.com. It's rbwins.com. And you could also call me direct, 781-571-0299. If you're uncomfortable with making a purchase online, I could take your credit card over the phone, and I could tailor a package specifically for you. And I guarantee all my weekly and monthly packages, Ron, if you're not making a profit at the end of a 7 or 30-day package, I will extend it until you do. So I'll never ask you for more money unless I earn it after your initial investment.
Yeah, and same thing here. If people are interested in my selections, going through a little bit of a hot streak right now. Hopefully we can keep it going. And we're giving off 25% off promo code NFL 2020 to get 25% off your next membership, either premium or regular package. And you can get our free plays also on our free pick page here at atsstats.com. All right, Ross, for Thursday. I keep thinking we're Thursday for some reason. We were talking about these football. For Wednesday, that's it, hump day, September 9th. Man, what a year. This COVID has really thrown me off my calendar here.
The days all blend in together, Ron, your defense.
Yeah, absolutely. For Ross Benjamin, I'm Ron Raymond. This was the Raymond Report for Wednesday, September 9th. Shop for value, play those percentages. We'll see you back shortly with another Raymond Report.